Hey everyone, Luke here. Hope you're doing well. And I got asked a question to compare the two main laboratories that people use for these types of programs, and that is ARL and TEI. So I decided to make a video on it. Okay, so it's important to realize that I'm making a video on these two because these two are the only two labs that really accurately test the hair. Okay. It's important to realize that the vast majority of hair laboratory tests out there, most of the laboratories are actually washing the hair at the lab, and that causes a lot of problems. Okay, not only do these labs wash the hair with water, but a lot of them wash the hair with chemical solvents multiple times, and it throws off a lot of the readings. Things like the heavy metals aren't affected as much, but a lot of them are affected. For example, the water-soluble minerals. Okay, for example, sodium. Sodium is very, very important on a hair test. Okay, I can't set up a program without accurate sodium reading. Okay, I can't do it. I need that, right? And sodium is obviously water soluble. Okay, so what happens when you wash the hair with solvents and water and all these things multiple times at the lab? It's gonna get rid of a lot of sodium, and it's gonna throw off the sodium reading. And that's true with all the water soluble vitamins. Okay, I believe calcium is somewhat water soluble as well, and there's other ones too. I think all the macros are at least somewhat water soluble. Potassium is as well, I believe. So it throws off all the readings, right? And so these two are the only two that you can actually use to set up one of the programs that I set up. Now, I think there's some confusion about these two labs in that although I use ARL, TEI is still accurate. Okay, you can use a TEI test if you have a hair test from another practitioner that uses TEI, and you want to switch to an ARL practitioner to do nutritional balancing, which is what I do, or if you have maybe an account with TEI already and you already got your hair tested, but now you're interested in actually getting a program set up by me, I can still use TEI. Okay, TEI is still accurate. I think there's some confusion in that people think that the whole debate is over accuracy. These two labs are both accurate. Okay, the information is solid from both of them, and you can use either of them to set up a nutritional balancing program. Okay, so that's the first point that I want to make very clear. Okay, you can use both of them. Okay, now if you're going to set up your own program, ARL is much better, and I prefer if people test the hair. For example, I use ARL because the lab test is much easier to read. Okay, now TEI does read some more minerals, but they're not necessary. Okay, like TEI will give you a reading out of like uranium levels in your hair, for example, and a few other ones that ARL doesn't. But those aren't necessary. Okay, they really don't help at all to set up a program. It's nice for some people because they like to see more minerals, but it's not necessary at all. Okay, and I like ARL, like I said, because it's much easier for me to read. When I get a TEI result back, I have to actually fill in a blank ARL one with the reference ranges, because TEI has different reference ranges. Okay, and they don't have ideal values on the test, and so you can't see the visual patterns and the ratios as clearly. Okay, where ARL you can. I can just look at it and see the visual pattern. I can see the ratios are easier to find and things like that. Okay, so I prefer ARL just for ease of use. When I get a TEI test back from a person, I take a blank ARL test sheet actually, and I fill it in with a pen so I can see it. But it doesn't take that long. It's not that big of a deal. So that's important to realize, is that I prefer ARL. And that if you're going to set up a program yourself, for example, if you don't want to work with a practitioner, although I do recommend that you do for lots of reasons, partially because even ARL, their computer hasn't been updated in a long time, and the programs we set up now are different. The TEI programs are, I think, pretty bad, in that you have to understand that the TEI programs that the computer gives out are much different than what I do. Okay, that's a very important. They give different supplements, different diets. They give, in my opinion, very strange advice. Like they tell people with like a slow thyroid not to eat broccoli because it slows down their thyroid, because it has thyroid inhibitors. And they let people eat wheat and fruit, and the diets aren't nearly as refined as what we do. TEI also doesn't recognize a lot of the patterns. TEI doesn't recognize for lows. A lot of the new research ones like sympathetic dominance, poor eliminators, the visual ones, things like that. And it's important to realize that nutritional balancing is a research science, and it's constantly evolving, and we're constantly finding new patterns and new, more efficient ways to heal and develop the body. And if you're going to do it yourself and just do a program from a readout, the ARL readouts are much better, because TEI was started by a man that used to work with Dr. Eck, and then he went and founded his own lab, TEI. And it's not the same as what we do with nutritional balancing. Some of the things are similar, but it's a little bit more of replacement therapy. And like I said, the diets are really bad in my opinion. They're not even close to accurate. But it's important to realize I prefer that you work with a nutritional balancing practitioner who uses ARL, because even the ARL lab hasn't been updated since Dr. Eck's passing for the most part. Dr. Eck's kids now run the lab, and they're pretty scared to change their father's work, from what I heard. And so their computer has been updated either. And so, for example, like in sympathetic dominance, they give more Megapan than we like, and they give Endodrin, I think, for sympathetic dominance, which we don't do anymore. And the lab doesn't include TMG in the programs. We put TMG into the programs a couple years ago. Things like that, okay? And so it's important to realize that I really, really recommend that you have a practitioner. Now, there are TEI practitioners, but that's completely different than what I do, okay? I do recommend that you get a practitioner, okay, in order to help you, get the results accurately, right? Get your program accurate with the most up-to-date information, which is, I think, important. And as well to help guide you through the process. You're going to have lots of questions. You're going to go through detox reactions. You're going to go through emotional problems a lot of the times. And you need a practitioner to help guide you through the process, to tell you it's all right, to change your program if your symptoms shift, to be able to handle your phone calls in case it's an emergency, and things like that. So that's very important to realize, okay? So, in conclusion, if you're going to get your hair tested, these are both accurate, okay? If you already have a TEI test, I can still look at them, and I can still set up a program from a TEI test. Both labs are accurate, okay? If you're going to do your do-yourself program, ARL is much better, okay, because their programs are much more accurate and they're more in line with what I do, okay? But I do recommend that you get a nutritional balancing practitioner to help guide you through an ARL program so that you'll have much better results, okay? I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, comment down below and I'll be sure to answer them. Peace.